This is the Theta Network 1 year overview reading for the year of 2024. It's currently November 18th, 2023, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Theta at the time of this reading is 0.9215 or just over 92 cents USD. And the shuffle video we're going to play for you here in just a second was created on November 14th, 2023 at 1:22 p.m. Eastern Time. That's a video right here in the corner. So the overall theme of behavior, this is a pretty interesting chart, guys. The theme card is the ruin card. So a decline with creating multiple new resistances on the way down. It's a notable decline on a 1 year chart scale, but it's crossed with the oppression card, which is like the range bound card. A lot of the time what you'll see is like a bouncing back and forth between the ranges. Either that or there's an important range that's highlighted like at one end and maybe you break through it. But based on what I'm seeing here, it looks like we're probably bouncing back and forth within a range for a little bit, and then we end up going into lower price levels towards the second part of the year. Behavior around the highest high, we have a prominent move higher, again standing out on a 1 year chart scale, and that prominent move higher is matched by a full retracement of that move back down. So usually when you see that in the high position, there's usually like one like significant, like one major high. You might have some like close to it or something, but you have one major high with two lows on either side in a lot of cases. Behavior around the low. So out of a decline, there'll be a notable move higher standing out on a 1 year chart scale again. That move will take us from the bottom of a range to the top of a range. So it'll be really notable and starting out of a scary decline, which is that's what makes me think there's going to be some back and forth as well. That, and when we take a look at the 10 year, we got a cross-reading congruency with the 2024 card is the oppression card. It appears here very prominently as the crossing card for the theme card, or like the secondary theme card if you want. So I think we actually start out with a bit of a rally in the year, and then we end up in a decline. But I'll get into that in more detail in just a moment. I want to make sure, before we go any further, that everybody's aware the whole purpose of the channel is to make sure that we're transmuting some of the competitive energy of the stock market into goodwill. We do that here on the resources tab of our website, Tarot for Traders, where everybody that's profiting from this information or intends to profit from this information, you must be following this rule of karma, or the universe is going to shut you off from the flow of abundance. The reason why this is so difficult to do, guys, is because very, very few people have thought, hey, let's make this something good for the world, not just about me. Sorry to say. Right? So the universe allows us to profit from this information and gain wealth through it, but that's only if it's part of making the world a better place. So you must follow the rule of karma. 5% of the profits should be donated forward to one of these charities. 5% of the profits should be donated back to the channel here. It leaves you at 90% of the money. That 90%, make sure to spend it out of love. As long as you do that, you follow the rule of karma for the channel, the universe is going to send it back to you tenfold for being an angel investor. Blessings to all my angel investors out there. Let's get back into it. All right, so the best way to understand how to read a 1 year chart, guys, is that each cluster of 4 cards going across the screen left to right is representing 1 month out of the year. So you go January, June, July, and then December down here. So from left to right and then left to right again, top to bottom. Within those clusters of 4 cards, the 2 in the middle going horizontal side by side, those are each card represents about 2 weeks out of the year. What's important to understand is that not each card's energy is going to line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time. So you want to give this reading about 2 weeks of plus or minus 2 weeks of wiggle room in some cases. What's most important is to pay attention to the sequence of events, because the sequence of events for the most part, or maybe even the whole reading, will be 100% accurate as far as the timing. There may be in some readings, occasionally there's cases where it's off by plus or minus 2 weeks, but the sequence of events will still remain accurate. So you want to make sure to pay attention to that in cases like that, and it'll keep you on track. In January, we have an important support level on a multi-year scale that's highlighted in early January, and there's a rally off of a low in January, which is probably in early January, because there's a high. The January high is a pop and drop. There's also a trade opportunity about the high and the low there that I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. But late January, we have a failed attempt to break through key resistance followed by a decline through key support. Now, what's important about this failed attempt at key resistance and decline through support is that it's very similar chart behavior to like the defeat card, where you have this failed attempt at resistance and a decline through support. But the thing is that generally the disappointing card takes place, that sequence of events takes place after you see a failed attempt at a resistance, and then the false establishment of support, and then the disappointment card comes back. You go back to that resistance and looks like you're going to break through because you have falsely established support, but instead there's a disappointment. You turn around and you break down through that falsely established support, and that's a disappointment card. Hard to say if there's going to be a lower price level at the beginning of January or at the end of January, but there's a pop and drop in the middle, and there's a trough in early February that with a big move off of it standing out on a 1 year scale, probably pushing the upper end of a range higher and taking us to a year's high thus far. Off of the year's high thus far there in February, we should have a notable decline, increasing with momentum moving forward in time. Trade opportunity there, obviously we'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. It's kind of mixed behavior near the low and a notable decline to reach the low. It's notable on a 1 year chart scale to reach the February low. It's probably the lows in early February, and then we decline pretty notably like on the cusp of February, March. We do like a decline increasing with momentum into sideways rotation there around the cusp. We should decline through at least 2 support levels, important on a 1 year chart, and then rotate sideways along with supports in early March. Trade opportunity there, I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version. The March high, we have a prominent move higher, breaking through key resistance. We stay above it briefly, and then we break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter with a full retracement. That peak or crest will be an overbought peak or crest that we sell off from pretty notably through multiple support levels on the way down. Yeah, and the low will form from a decline that starts off of a prominent peak. So I think we probably see the low after the high. I am advised not to chase that decline because it might make it look like we're going lower, and that's probably a lowest low thus far as well there around the end of March in the midst of that decline. But there is a peak in early April, or on the cusp of March, April, and then we have an even higher price level, possibly a highest high thus far again here, where we have this failed attempt to break through key resistance, and when we have a rally that increases with the momentum moving forward into this high, and then that's followed by price swings as we leave April, and a notable decline towards the end of April, around the cusp of April, after that rally, notable decline into May through multiple support levels. Looks like there's like a multi-day swing trade, a short-term swing trade there in early May, in the midst sets to that decline, and I'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. Guys, if you're interested in the paid version, it's a really great way to support the channel. You also get a lot of extra information that you don't get from this public version. Like, I'm going to specify where the highest high for the year is and where the lowest low for the year is in the paid version. I'll also probably talk about price levels if I'm able to extrapolate information. We also talk about any trades that are relevant on a multi-year time scale as well. But then again, it's really the right thing to do if you utilize this information regularly. This is people who support the channel are the ones that are able, the reason why this channel is able to put out the content that we do. Without people like you purchasing the paid version, we wouldn't be able to put out this content, period. So thank you very much to all those of you that go ahead and do that. So the way that you get the paid version, it's simple. You go to our website, Tarot for Traders, click on our services, SO Meta Posts, scroll down, go to 1 year report, click here to order. You specify the year. Right now we're doing 2023, 2024, 2025, and then you specify the ticker or crypto symbol. In this case, it would be Theta. Add to cart. Thank you very much for all those of you that go ahead and do that. Blessings to you for being supporters of the channel. I mean, I definitely know the names of everybody that does that. No kidding. Like, if I see you on a live and it's the same name, I'll recognize it. All right, so let's get back into it. So decline in May with a short-term trade opportunity. It looks like off of the May low, there's a move higher followed by a full retracement that moved back down. So we probably see two lows in May. Big move to the upside to reach the May high, which is likely, I think the May high is probably mid-month. And we decline into a low, big move higher, reaching for a distant resistance to reach the May high. Then we have a lot of price change off of that resistance, allowing for one to trade both directions, not at the same time, but at one moment and then at another moment when there's like a reversal. And that would make sense to have a low at the beginning of the month, a low at the end of the month with a high in the middle. That makes sense for the lover's card as a low card for May. And then in June, we decline pretty notably on a 1 year chart in early June. It's kind of hard to pinpoint where the June high is. But we have decline throughout most of June, and we'll move higher through resistance. We'll stay above it briefly. We'll break back down through the same price level shortly thereafter into more of a decline, continuing as we leave the month. The low of June will form when we have three pokes through the same trend line. Usually it's horizontal. Sometimes it's at an angle to the downside. But either way, after the third poke, sharp decline on a multi-day scale or standing out on a 1 year chart. There is a crest there. The June high is probably towards the end of the month, but there's a crest there. Somebody should be speaking on something relevant to Theta or somehow impacts Theta. Whatever they're speaking about, it can be relied upon and trusted. And then in early July, we have probably a big move higher. But even if we don't, what we're doing is we're successfully turning resistance into new support. There's a cross-reading congruency here. I'll talk about in more detail in the paid version, but an important price level around the July high and a notable reversal in late July. Off of the July low, there's a big move higher out of oversold territory, and then we have a really important low. Death card always indicates an important trough of some kind here in early August. Pretty notable decline to a key support level here as the August low. And the August high, which I think is probably on the cusp there of July, August, that high is formed when we have a rally along a diagonal trend line, and then that rally ends with a fast move higher and then a breakdown through that diagonal trend line with increasing volatility on the way down. And it looks like there's a resistance level involved in late August from which there's a lot of price change, and you could probably play both directions based on a reversal there. Also, important trough there towards the end, towards the third week of the month of August. Important crest towards the first week of September, maybe even a higher one towards the middle of September. But we declined pretty notably from that September high. A lot of price change and a lot of volatility on the way down into an important trough at the end of September. And I think we probably see the same price level there in September that we saw in August. I'll talk about that in more detail in the paid version. Important trade opportunities there around the August high and on the cusp of September, October. There's a decline in early October that starts from a near overbought crest, and we saw through multiple support levels, erratic behavior back and forth through the same price level near the October low. In the midst of that erratic behavior back and forth through the same price level, we revisit an opportunity at a crest usually. We attempt to establish support near the October high. Usually what that indicates is some sideways rotation indicating a high. And there's an important opportunity, an improbable and very auspicious opportunity in late October on the cusp of October, November. My sense is that it's probably at like a peak or crest. There's a notable opportunity there because we've got this unicursal in early November when we meet an important price level on a multi-year scale. There's an important price level there. I'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version. And then we have a sharp decline into an important low on a 1 year chart scale there towards the end of November that forms after a brief peak that's easily missed, and then a decline into that from that peak into the low. Out of the low, there's a rally along a diagonal trend line breaking through horizontal resistance to meet a second resistance before pulling back to somewhere between those two price levels. It looks like we go pretty bullish there into the end of November and into most of December. It looks like some back and forth behavior going on in early December, crisscrossing back and forth through the same price level 3 times. Important price level on a 1 year chart scale. The third cross to the upside will confirm a bullish trend, and we'll have a pretty big move higher standing out on a 1 year chart scale towards the end of December. That'll form when we have a big move higher standing out again on a 1 year chart scale. And that'll be like sideways fluctuating rally, big move at the end of it. We're dropping pretty notably, most likely in early January 2025, but overall 2025, I'll talk about it in more detail in the paid version, my friends. That's the Theta reading for 2024. Let me know what you think by hitting that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Most importantly, make sure to follow that rule of karma, my friends. Neglect to follow through on the rule of karma, the universe will neglect to follow through on the abundance flow through this channel. I promise you that. That's what the universe does. It does not want you using it for only selfish purposes, so make sure to follow the rule of karma. Blessings to all my angel investors. I'll see you guys on the next one.